Today we talked about digitalization, on how to ensure that you can reduce burnout, you can automate processes, you can ensure that as much as possible is done automatically and as easy as possible. Yesterday we talked about marketing, on how to ensure that for different activities you do, you can easily achieve a high number of participants and if needed also volunteers, and overall some marketing strategies. And today, on the last day, we're going to talk about some funding insights and ideation. The main key takeaway of today is that you will know how to create a lot of ideas quite quickly for different type of projects, and just like an overall, either we are funded or not funded, that's up to you all. So I see that everybody has mostly joined, so we will start quickly about me. For those who are listening for the first day, I run an NGO, Club the House, a Latvian youth organization. We work in the national level. We have more than 50 process managers, more than in total more than 800 members. Actively, we lead more than 200 volunteers every single week. I have before been also a marketing specialist for different companies, like for such as LG, Audi, McDonald's, and etc. And also had my own international company. And briefly about us, the organization, for those who are listening the third time, hopefully I say something new, but I doubt that there will be something new. For those who are joining the first time, Club the House, the organization that is leading this masterclass, is a Latvian youth NGO that works on the national level. Our goal is to create a platform where youth come, thousands of youth come to us every single year. We help them spot social issues around them, and then provide all of the necessary resources like funding, knowledge, and so they can solve the issues on local level in 15 different priorities. And that's the main idea. And so let's get into the presentation of today. In case you have any questions, feel free to ask them at the end of the masterclass. Compared to the other days, we will try something different. We will try a more practical Q&A with showcase session. In a way, you'll see what I mean by that at the end of it. But let's start with today's first topic. As on all of the days before, I mentioned never-ending problem. So what's the never-ending problem with the projects? Well, as an NGO, perhaps you think maybe you need 10 grants or any type of number, or any way you look at it. You feel like you need different projects to fund your capacity, to create, to fund ideas, or to employ yourself. It can be whatever. Sometimes you say you need these, for example, 10 grants, and you receive 2. So what's the issue in those cases? So 3 key challenges we'll briefly try to address today is finding new projects. Then the second one is when you have perfect project example, and maybe you have your own organization strategy where you typically take your ideas from. For this specific project, you simply don't have an idea, but it would be perfect for your NGO to apply there. And third one is the project ideas are rejected. So we will go through all 3, and at the end of it, we will have the practical or session Q&A. So the first one is I believe I need to perhaps address this a little bit. On how to find the project proposals, project options where you can apply. So there are actually quite a few different ways. I will start, but before we go with that, we will get into what type of projects are the funding sources that you can apply for? So there's quite different funding sources. Today we'll cover mostly the public funding, but there's also private funding, economic activity that you can do, for example, sell services, and also donation income. And there are a lot of different options more besides these ones, but obviously these are the most four common ones mentioned, and most NGOs are typically receiving most of their funding from the first 20 public funding, where we typically have funding received either on local level by the municipalities, on national level by ministries, European level, global level. And so the levels are quite different, but it's quite common. One of the most popular ones is Erasmus Plus, the KA1, KA2 project that some people are already messaging in the chat that they want to apply. Then there's also private funding, the corporate sponsorships and philanthropic foundations. Yesterday, and on the first day, we already covered quite a lot of different corporate sponsorships where different companies provide services for free if you're a non-profit, and do some specific activities, like for example Google, the 10,000 euros, $1 grant that they provide every single month if you're a non-profit. Then there's also the economic activity. That is something that a lot of NGOs strive typically for, where you can either provide some services, consultancy, consultations, product sales, membership fees, and lastly, donation incomes, which typically are divided into two different categories: the one-time donations and the monthly donations. The monthly donation is something that a lot of people strive for. Currently, Clubhouse is having a high amount of experiments within all of these four categories, so feel free to ask questions in any of them, especially at the end of the presentation, and perhaps we can comment on it, especially on donations and membership fees and private funding. We are experimenting heavily on that. So let's focus today on the public funding, because that's typically the most easiest funding to receive in a way. And whenever we talk about funding, so we have four categories, especially in the public funding, there are typically few parties involved, and this is quite obvious, of course, but there are a few elements that everybody should take into account on the parties involved. So there's always the money provider. So they have a specific goal on why they want to give you the money. And you either will know it, or you have to guess it, or you have to learn it. Because there are some grants that are, for example, for Erasmus, you quite certainly know what is the goal as it is written in the guidelines. But for some non-profit grants, not always there are guidelines, so sometimes you have to ultimately guess it. And if they have typically written out the description, especially in KA2 projects and KA3 projects, they almost always already in the project description, they are almost immediately in the first few pages already say what type of activities they actually want, and so it all typically focuses on about the issue that you're actually trying to solve. But this is something to take into account. Then the second one is, of course, the money receiver, you who got the good news that you received the money, the grant. But you are the provider. You are the hands for the person who has the money. So they have the money, they have the goals, they want to have specific things done, and you are the one who does it. The transaction is quite clear on that one, but there's always a third party that is quite often overlooked, and I'm not talking about the participants in the projects, but I'm talking about the third parties, which is, for example, you could have a project, for example, at KA2 small scale partnerships. Maybe in your project you have in a budget section that you will fund for example, one lecturer for one day, and you are willing to spend like 1,000 euros on that lecture. So the third party is a person or an NGO that comes into an accepted project and gives some value, of course, but is also the one that receives money. And the third one is actually quite unused in a lot of ways. That's going to be one of the key elements we will focus today as well on the third party. And so, as before mentioned, I noticed that we received already a Q&A. I will answer the Q&As this time at the end to see how that works. But feel free already to send the Q&A questions. So, how do you find the project proposals, the project ways, which are besides Erasmus too, and etc. like that? There are actually quite a few ways. So the first one is using search engines. I know this is quite an unusual one, but by using different search engines, you can truly find the unknown opportunities. For example, and the way it works is of course when you for example, you're looking for corporate sponsorships for NGOs. You open Google, and the first page that shows up, you have like 10 different places, then 10 different blogs, and it doesn't really seem to fit you. So you try to search for a different keyword that doesn't still quite work for you, and overall you just give up on it. So the reason why using search engine is quite a difficult activity to find all of the projects is because it's quite hard to keep track of all of the websites. If you search up corporate sponsorships, you will have tens of thousands of websites showing up, and it's quite demotivating to simply go to the website over and over and over again. But there is a key element here that search engines are always not only Google, and the reason why actually this is quite a good thing to do, at least try out, especially if you have some volunteers who wanna get into project management. This is one of the first tasks you can practically give them, to go and search for them online. But the reason why this is a really good example on what to try, because a lot of there are long-term NGO grant providers. There are sometimes one-time NGO grant providers, and for the long-term ones, the competition there is quite high always. For example, in Erasmus K2 projects in Latvia, the acceptance rate is about 10%. So every 10 NGOs that apply, only one gets accepted. But at the same time, recently there have been different smaller scale grants, for example, for like 20,000 euros, which are new, that haven't been explored before. It's done by, for example, a specific NGO that has never done these type of grants for other NGOs. So the competition there is quite much lower. And for that grant, which is only from Latvia, the acceptance rate there is more than 50%. And so in some instances it's really good, but it will take a lot of resources. But the first tips and the steps for this one is create a list of planned keywords. On the bottom right one, you already see that we have there's an example, a Google sheet that we did, which is basically just different keywords to search for in Google: government grants, corporate grants, etc., etc. And it's quite a long one. And the second one is keep a track on to which page you went to, especially if you're using Google, as this is quite a long, intensive work. You want maybe to pass the torch to somebody else. So if you went to perhaps the 10th page, and if somebody else searches up, they will probably have, so they don't waste time, they already have to go to the 10th page, if that makes sense. And start doing it over and over again. With time, you'll see some sort of value out of it. this is, we tried it. From this, we did find, I think, 3 unique grants that worked for us. We already got funding from one of them, but they took a lot of resources to simply do it. And the second one is something not talked about quite often, at least not in our bubble, is grant databases. Because this is such a big problem for a lot of NGOs. There are NGOs that have actually built out the databases, and the databases are massive. Because, for example, if you know a website for, like Candid, they combine more than, I think it was more than 15,000 non-profit foundations, projects. And that will save you a lot of time on researching and finding funders. Of course, a lot of these websites are mostly adjusted for nonprofits in USA, but from our personal experience, they also work. There's a lot of information also about for NGOs in Europe. And through these databases, you can also quite often find specific unpopular grant foundations, and there's a high value to actually subscribe to the newsletters of these project providers. Because, for example, if I show you our email, which I will do. In our email, the way we have it set up as of right now is we have a newsletter page, which is we have 300 emails. It fills up quite fast. So, for example, the way we have set it up is we have an email created, get newsletters. So we simply go to different websites and we subscribe to newsletters, and by submitting this email, then all of the emails go to this email, and then we once a week go through all of the opportunities and see if there's something fit for us. Quite practical one compared to the previous one, much more useful. And the databases are quite a few. By talking to other NGOs, one of the highest value for the buck is foundationcenter.org, find funding, because they have if I'm not mistaken, more than 20,000. So they're quite. But the note there is that, of course, they are not for free. They cost, and the costs are around either on 200 euros a year, for example. But on most of the times, for example, this one is 133 euros a month. This is not an ad for them, but there are also at the same time other ones who are much cheaper, but also cost much less. For example, this one was less than 200 euros a year, and we used it. And by using this website, we created a database of about, I think, 800 potential foundations that we could look into the future, see if we can see some sort of partnership with them. So there are these databases, and also there are also, of course, databases for accepted projects. If you have not seen it, there is a website for Erasmus Plus accepted projects, where you can just simply click completed or ongoing, and you can see the partners at also the activities that happen in your country, and you can message these potential project accepted people to see if there's some sort of partnership and that with them that could happen. And by doing that, you can either get new projects or also get into new fields of different projects that otherwise would be quite hard to get into, especially for those who are doing first time, want to do KI2 projects for the first time. It's a good practice, for example, to message maybe somebody who already has accepted it and try to offer them something so that you can at least partially join for some of the parts of the project. And of course, so you find all of the projects. Now you have maybe a list of 800 different foundations. You check the website, there are hundreds of projects, and now you want to apply to some of them. And there is a few things before you do that. Before you start the ideation process, you have to analyze the given documents, of course. But from my experience, this is a little bit overlooked by some people. Not analyzing, of course, the grant guidelines, but the other parts of the documents. So there are different documents that every person should analyze. So, for example, in the grant guidelines, they will typically quite directly tell you the problem that they want you to solve, the objectives, impact expected, and what's the target audience. This is the most crucial information that you can get out of the guidelines. Second one is, it looks like it's going to be a lot of animation in this slide. The second one is grant application. Sometimes when you go to the grant applications, you will see that some of the options are that they're not obligatory, that you can fill them out, not fill them out, depends on your mood on that day. But from our experience, everything that is not obligatory is obligatory if it's a high competition project. Any EU centralized project, if there's something non-obligatory, we fill it out if it can bring additional information for the project. Also, on the grant applications, many times you will see a question, for example, what's the target audience? And under the big question, you will see something in small italic letters written a description on what they want to do. On what they want you to describe there. Always read it. That's what they actually most of the time want to hear there. And lastly, remember when you write it down that they read a lot of project ideas, and that they will have to read every single project idea from A to Z, most likely, which is more than maybe 50 different projects. Which each being 60 pages, and as in most grant reviewers are doing it part-time, it can take, they will not want to read random stuff that could not be, that could have been left out there, because they're just people. The third document that always is I think one of the highest priority documents that is a must to look into, the evaluation criteria. So what are the parts that they will actually look at? What are the parts that they actually have high interest in? Because sometimes in applications you will see that there are questions, and when you look at the criteria, that's not even evaluated there. So sometimes just a second. We have a youth initiative happening in our next room, so I will quickly go talk to them. Sorry for that. Thursdays are a fun day for us here. So yeah, evaluation criteria, and that's the place where you see most of the hidden details that they're actually taking a focus on. And it also gives a reality check for those who are writing the projects, some specific projects for the first time, as and those who are also running projects for first time as a whole overall, sometimes we have the tendency to see the objective, and we hyper focus on one of the details so much that we try in some ways forget about other details. So it will give you the reality check on what that you sometimes need to focus maybe something on one of the things, or you need to take into account other things. And reporting conditions. This is something we personally don't often look at, to be real. But this week I was also taking part in different project management course by one of the largest Latvian NGOs and Latvian Civic Society. And they actually mentioned this, and I thought it would be great to share this forward. But reporting conditions, often actually I checked that in the reporting conditions or in the documents that you have to sign, which are most of the time provided up front before you even, when you're still writing the project, that there they will show what they need for and what you will need to report on. So it will perhaps be social media publications. Maybe they will be looking at different signatures that you have collected. And these small details are small, but they are quite highly valuable to be added into the project, as you already know the key elements that they will be looking for in the future. And lastly, this is especially for those who sometimes the project managers who are writing projects together with other people. This is especially for those because we have the tendency in our NGO that we try to train a lot of new project managers who are writing the projects for the first time, and we typically try to team them up with other project managers with the previous experience. And on most of the times we have a team of 3 to 5 people who are highly focusing on a specific project, on writing it out. And from our personal experience, we have noticed by using the Google Drive ecosystem, which I mentioned on the first day, that if you save all the documents into one place, it's a highly efficient way to go through all of the documents with everybody together, to underline all of the key elements and see and just go through it. That's something we do with every single project. We always have this information. We always also copy paste the website information, because sometimes it has different key elements mentioned, but that is something we take account into. But on most of the times when you have all of this information given to you, so the grant application, grant guidelines, evaluation criteria, reporting conditions, you have to prioritize, okay, what do you think is the most important information, especially you see some things are opposite to each other. So always the most important one is an evaluation criteria, then there's the grant guidelines, grant application, and reporting conditions. That's how we typically rate it, and that's the what success formula for us on most of the times. And going forward, so one of the key issues I mentioned already in the beginning is if the problem is not to find the projects, then another issue is to create the idea. The best practice for project proposals is something that everybody always mentions. If you have a project, if you see a project, only apply if you already have an idea. Sometimes that's not simply possible, maybe because you have your strategy meeting planned in the month afterwards. and you see that this project would be perfect for you. You just don't have the specific idea written down yet, and maybe you need to do a quick brainstorming. And we believe that when we write projects, actually more than around half the time we spend on a project as a whole is spent on the ideation process, on creating the perfect, innovative, great project idea that could happen. Because after that, it's quite simple to write out the project when you have the idea written out. And for that, there are a few different concepts on how to create these ideas quickly that align for the project, because the project needs specific activities done. That's what the founder wants to achieve. And you also have your strategy. So you need to find the perfect middle ground, and also not do activities that are not relevant for you or them. So you need to be relevant for both sides. But before we move forward, I noticed that I noticed a question in the chat. Sometimes the hidden details are the KPIs. How do we know which are more valuable for them? And we should also make a risk plan. So regarding the KPIs, a really great example right now, I'll practically show it. On a project we are writing right now. Luckily it's in English. European Youth Together. We're planning to write this project, to submit it on the 6th of March. Well, we're already writing it. So here there are specific objects, and if you look, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 objectives that they are looking for. But at the same time, each objective is quite different. So, for example, the first one is the promotion of more transnational cooperation. The second one is the promotion of EU values. The third one is involving different young people, youth organizations, empowering youth organizations, and then reinforcement of European dimension. So that's like really big summary. But each of these 5 objectives is quite different. So you read all of this, but then you go to the award criteria, which is the main point that I mentioned before, and there's the objectives. The proposal objectives are relevant to at least one of the general objectives of the action and at least one of the specific objectives. So we go back to the objectives, and I know this is quite a specific example, but so we need to meet at least one of the objectives for the specific ones. And what we do then is we go back down and we try to visualize, okay, if I was the reviewer of the projects, for the elements of the project, we have 30 points. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sections. Most often, each section is rated between 2 to 10 points. And we can here take into account, for example, so objectives is most likely going to be at least from 5 to 8, between 4 to 8 points. And here you can take into a small gamble. Of course, you can always ask the question, ask them and send them an email, which is the best idea, of course, always. But here you can see, imagine if the objectives can be rated up to 6 points, but here they're saying that you can focus only on one. Has to be at least one. So most often that here we will perhaps focus on at least 4 of the specific objectives, and the way you can rate them, it's quite hard to. So if they provide it to you in this way, it's quite hard to say which of the objectives are more important to the person. You can either email them, that's best practice, and just simply ask them. And secondly is I would simply focus on if I can accomplish all of the 5 objectives that is given in the project, and it makes it high quality. What we typically do is we choose the specific objectives, KPIs that we feel strongest towards to. So we know that if we focus on these 4 instead of the other 5, that it will be the highest quality. And a lot of times there's going to be also criteria in the quality of the project and design, the quality of partnership profile. So here they actually rate it if it's something that how good will you be at it, basically. And so that's the way we rate it. We take the objectives and see which ones fit us the most, and plan according to that, or ask them to in an email. And regarding the risk plan, I will add that for the end after the presentation, as that's a little bit more complex topic. And regarding the Q&A, there are 2 questions from Regina. One is security funding is often a challenge for NGOs, as many people are hesitant to donate or commit to memberships. How do you approach your audience to build trust, and which tools or platforms are having the most effective? So, okay, I will add the point in the end also about donation and the process and that as a whole. And the other question is, given the importance of collaboration in NGO projects, could you share which platforms or networks, aside from SALT and partnership meetings or live projects, you recommend for connecting and partnering with projects? Additionally, what strategies or approaches do you suggest for building a dedicated and responsible team that really cares about? Those are really, really good questions. Okay, since these, all of the 3 given questions are more quite in depth, I will answer them in the end. So regarding the donations, partners, and lastly, also about the team topic. So I will answer that at the end of the presentation. Regarding, so let's focus a little bit more on the ideation process. So when you have the basic key elements, which is you found different foundations, you found different projects, you understand the involved parties, you have read the documents, of course, you understand that you meet the criteria that you can apply to them, and now you have found that perhaps they want to focus on youth engagement to solve a specific problem, and you want to apply. You don't have the idea, but you believe that your NGO would be perfect to solve this idea, and it also is great for your strategy. So from our perspective, we have typically given 2 main ideation types for our new project managers that we have noticed works the best. One of them is something that we'll present a little bit later. Wait, I will quickly go to the so how do you create the ideas? There are 2 main concepts which we'll present in a second, which is problem tree and systematic thinking. But before we focus on different ideation methods, one of the key elements to always remember, especially if you're working with new people in a team. So these are the people who you haven't worked at least together for at least a year, especially for ideation, where people have to actively share ideas and share their perspectives. So in ideation, it's crucial to differentiate between the part where you are creating ideas and making decisions, especially as a leader. So you want to ensure that people give more ideas. So last week I went to a school and I was talking just about this ideation, one of the topics. And to prove an example, I asked them, what should the school do to ensure that more young people want to study in universities? Some people said, hey, we can do a seminar. And I said, oh, wonderful, a seminar, let's do it. Yeah, I'm going to write that down. And then another idea, maybe somebody said, oh, they should just pay them. Okay, let's pay them. Write it down. And then I think somebody said, burn the school down. I say, okay, that's an interesting idea. I'm going to write that down. So the idea here is that whatever the idea is, you write it down. You don't judge it. You simply write it down and ensure that the brainstorm process goes further. If you see that it's not working, you can always give a bad idea example. For example, burn down the school is quite that doesn't solve any problem at all. I would say it's overall quite not a bad idea, but not a workable problem solution. So you could present them that idea. And typically on these type of ideas, people will say, no, what do you mean? Why? What? No, don't write that down. And you as the process manager at that moment just have to ensure that people say, no, we are writing down all of the ideas. So especially the newer ones, speak out and create the ideas and share them. And after a specific moment, you will see that, okay, we have enough ideas. Now let's just select them and see which ones fit us the best. So in one moment you say, all right, let's write them and stop giving you ideas. And it's important to make the difference between when you create ideas and when you make decisions. That's the key element in all of the ideations. This is something you could just take away and learn about, and that's it. That's one of the crucial points. But of course, sometimes just throwing out ideas in the air is a little bit hard, and so there's few methods on how to do that better. So one of them is a problem tree. A few years ago, when I was working in Latvian Youth Council together with different partners, we created a project how to measure social impact. And one of the key elements we created after this project was a method called problem tree. If I remember correctly, it was meant for a different reason on why it was meant to be created, but this is actually one of the most practical, best things we do for every single project that we write. We always create a problem tree, and for those who haven't heard of problem tree before, imagine your friend has a problem. They tell you, hey, I have a problem. I can't stop. I drink too much coffee. Please give me 20 ideas on how to stop. Well, the first idea you're going to say is just stop drinking, man. And now the next ideas are a little bit more difficult because maybe you can ask him to replace something with it, but the ideas come more, it's not that easy to create 20 different solutions to a problem when you see that one is just like the perfect one. So how do you look into those situations? So, for example, if the core problem is that, for example, too much coffee is bad for my well-being and it's causing problems. In project writing overall, it's also quite often necessary to write out reasons why it's actually a big problem and which element are you actually addressing in this problem. So too much coffee. Now, for example, imagine somebody's grandma is drinking too much coffee and she's saying that this is too bad for my well-being. And you can ask her why. Well, why are you drinking that much coffee? And she will most likely say maybe I sleep less than 7 hours. My brain is overworked from all of the things that I have to do while being a grandma. There are some social situations where I meet with other people and everybody's drinking coffee. Maybe the first coffee doesn't give any additional value for me anymore. So these are 4 causes for a problem. And now when you go even further, maybe the reason why you sleep less than 7 hours a night, maybe the dogs start barking outside, you can't stop reading the news in the night, maybe your brain is overloaded because you have 5 projects running at the same time, and so on. I see that one of them is still in Latvian, sorry for that, but the main idea is that when you have the core problem, you write down causes and then causes. And when you look at these causes, you can take a look and try to understand which of these causes you want to solve first. And when you try to solve the causes, they can become high quality activities. And also in the opposite way, the result, when causes can be used as activities, result can be typically used for argumenting why this is a big problem and why it should be solved. So maybe you want to tell to grandma that you're drinking so much coffee, it's bad for you. Well, she's not going to really listen to that. So maybe you can tell her that it feels that maybe there's too much big weekly expenses as she's just drinking every day, going to Starbucks, or sometimes that it feels like she starts to feel strange after the 3rd coffee. Her mood completely depends on it, and so on, and to the opposite side as well. And this now you have already 10 different causes, 10 different results. You can practically try to solve one of these ideas, and same on the other side. Now this is a really practical example, and I will show you also how the problem trees look in project writing afterwards. But there's also a different method that we recently have been trying out, and it's quite successful, I would say, is system thinking. So there are different ways to start creating the ideas. One of them is to find all these problems and then try to find the problem solutions. There's also a systems thinking, which is more focused on creating a linked timeline and not working specifically through the problem, but working specifically through the target audience. So, for example, imagine, I will take an example of the European Youth Together a project, the KEI3 project. So there you need 5 partners, you need the youth NGOs, you need youth and decision makers. You need so many different parties involved, and initially it's quite hard. Even if you create the problem tree, it's quite hard to create activities that will ensure that throughout the project, which is quite long, 2 years, everybody is involved in high quality activities. So one of the ways to do it is by drawing out involved parties. For example, the systems thinking would be in a way where you write down, so the first one is organized as partners, 5 people. So the first activity most likely is going to be that all of these 5 people need to meet up in a way. No matter what's the topic or what problem we're trying to solve, this will be most likely the first problem. So the next one is all of the countries need to involve youth NGOs. Okay, so that means each of the partner in their own country most likely creates the second activity, which is between the partner and their youth NGOs. There's also emphasis on different NGOs, youth NGOs meeting together. So perhaps to ensure that that criteria is met, all of them now need to meet together. Then after, there's also high focus on youth. But to ensure high quantity and also high quality, you will most likely in each country need more partners. So you can then look at, okay, each youth NGO will have their own youth activity happening in their country. And after that, all of the youth can also come together. And that's the same process with decision makers. So now with the systems thinking, you have already created a lot of different activities that could be implemented. And I do want to note that this isn't perfect way on how to create the timeline and etc. But it's a good one of the good starting positions to try out at least. So right now you already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different type of activities. There's always most likely the ending activity, where everybody comes together as a whole. And of course you can then now think about, like, maybe you need just activities for decision makers, youth NGOs, and create a different activity format for that. But the base is done basically. And then now you just need to understand what is the practical activity to ensure that will benefit where all of the partners meet up and solve the problem, and also bring bigger focus to the end goal. But through this concept, you will ensure that a lot of all of the necessary target groups are involved. Just an example. Now, project blanks. This is not something that is too oftenly used, and is a really good practice, especially for large-scale projects, especially for those, for example, somebody asked in the chat about risk plan. So this is perfect for projects where you need to also write out risk plans and or anything else. Truly. The way it works is this example will be in Latvian, and I will provide the English version in email by end of the day. But the way it works is you create one pager in your own language where you have the basic information on the top, which is the project name, where it will be, the location, format, the length of the project, and that's some basic information. So you write out that, and that will be asked in any project. The second focus is on the problem you're trying to solve and the practical solution. So that's the other big category that is always asked in every single question and every single grant. And if you can write that out, then you focus on the next category, which is the practical solution, more the activities and plan the results, where you write out each of the activity that is planned, their target audiences in quantities, and you also be able to write down details, the timeline of the whole project as a whole, and also for each activity. So there is the length, activity description, some quantitative data on what will be reached, what is the target audience, and the data, the resources. For any large-scale project, this is, I would say, must-have for the beginning, because it not only helps you bring everything together, but it also helps you, if you're working with the team, to have one pager where all of the project is written out. And after that, typically you will also, besides this, in most projects, you'll start to have the more uncommon questions. For example, the risk plan. What is your long-term, like what will be done after the project, and etc. Those are more advanced questions, but to always answer those questions, you always need to answer the basic. What's the problem you're trying to solve? What's the goal? What's the practical solution? on the practical solution, what are the activities, people you reach, describe them, and then also answer like how many people you will actually reach. And regarding the key elements I wrote down here is that try to always use simple language, and also when writing out these blanks, if you have some of them or if you need some examples, feel free to reach out. And one more key element, whenever writing out the projects, it's important that it feels like one person wrote it down, especially if multiple people write it, because the styles, especially between countries, is quite different on the way to write, and especially if you're using some AIs to help with that, it's quite noticeable. And if several people write it, it's quite often is the case where the same information will be repeated in several times, and some information will be left out due to being overlooked, and that is not too good from my experience. And lastly, regarding all of the systems thinking and problem trees I mentioned, it's not always necessary to show the diagram to people, but it's the main key is that you know how to ask additional questions, and always try further and try to always find as many different ideas for the ideation process, as then when you have more ideas, it's easier to guarantee higher quality of the project. So that's the basic I wanted to talk about. Now in the Q&A and also in a survey, when we ask for participants information, we noticed there's a lot of different information we could touch upon. We can definitely dive more deep into the project writing concepts. We can dive more deep into our donation concepts, how we run it right now, and what we can share from our experience. But this is the main thing I wanted to talk about today: how to create the mass ideas. And also, before we go into the Q&A, I will practically show how we did it for a different project we wrote last year. And now this will be in Latvian, but it will be more of a showcase on how to make it work. So the first thing we always do is the problem tree. Practically, it's sometimes a little bit hard to make it, especially if you're working with people on it for the first time. So there's always the problem in the middle, and then we created the problem tree for all of the different target groups, because we were writing a campaign for, I think it was 4 months and 120,000 euros, and it had to cover a lot of different target groups. So we created the problem tree for different target groups. Each target group had the reason why these problems are showing up, and what are the results if these problems keep occurring. And then when we have all of the problems written down, we simply choose top. We vote. Everybody has like 4 to 5 votes. They add emojis to the problems that they see that's the most fit for us to solve, and then we just simply select them green, and then we have at least now 20 more ideas, problem concepts on what we can try to solve. And then the next step is to create practical activities. That is more like brainstorming for when each problem you write down, you have written down the problem, or that you copy paste from the problem tree, and next to it you write all of the solutions. And yeah, that's the basic concept of the problem tree, how it works. And when you have the basic concept, when you have all these ideas, I think through this process we generated, I would say I think it was more than 100 different activity ideas. Then the way you rate them on which activity you leave into the timeline and which you don't leave into the timeline depends on different criteria, but we typically just rate them on 5 to 4 different points and see which fits us the most. But yeah, that's the main information I wanted to present today. So today is a little bit shorter, but the main thing I really want to talk about is, so yeah, the Q&As. Somebody already asked about the donation part. So maybe perhaps I will answer that one regarding the first one from Regina. Is the one question. Securing funding is often a challenge for NGOs, as many people are hesitant to donate or commit to memberships. How do you approach your audience to build trust and engagement, and which tools or platforms have you been the most effective in converting interest into financial support? Lovely question. I think so. I will specifically focus on donations here. So the first thing any NGO should ensure, if it's not done yet, firstly you need to create a way for them to pay it actually. So if your NGO has already a website, I will quickly show you the before and after. So, if your website, so there are a few things of the funnel that you have to ensure about the donation part. So the first one is ensure that there's even a technical place where people can donate, and it's written down. Initially, for I think more than I don't know. Since I remember, we didn't have any donations for more than 4 years. Right now, in January, our donations in January and February, our donations and membership fees have reached a little bit more than 1,000 euros, which is quite a good improvement since last year. For the whole year, it was like, I think, 100 euros. So we have 10 times it within 2 months already. For the whole year. The first thing we did is create a donation page. Initially, we simply tried to do a test. The way it looked before was there's a donation page where will the funds go, and just simple information like this, and asking, and there was here it is in Latvian, asking about the transfers. But before that, we had this plugin, donor box, which can be added to any website. It's free of charge. They only take a small commission. So we had this element added here in this website. And then we tried to do different campaigns on it. And we noticed a lot of people come to the website and they disappear. So that was a different problem. So we understood that the campaigns are slightly working. I will share the campaigns and a little bit about what they were, but they something didn't seem to work. So recently we changed our donation page, which now looks like this. The key difference is when you click it, you immediately are showed the donation part. And we also realized that while one-time donations are great and we love them and we truly appreciate that people are supporting us from very deeply, we appreciate it. However, we realized that one-time donations aren't really something that will help us long-term, so we only truly focus on monthly donations. And now the process is it's 1 click, 2 clicks, you fill out information and you pay it. It's a little bit more technically advanced, but now we see that more people are coming to the end of the part. So and the reason why I'm saying this is because there are different funnel phases. So one of them is just to actually get them through, ensure that they actually can donate. Regarding the trust building, so the first one is I will show you a diagram. I think since it's a more in-depth question, so the first one is getting people to the donation part. Second one is ensuring people donate, and the third one is they keep donating monthly. For each of the categories, you can go definitely more in depth and etc. This is the main key points we look into. Getting people to donate. There are different concepts. The one we tried initially is we tried to print out booklets, like brochures. I think that's the correct name, and we delivered that. I think it was 400 brochures, which in depth describes about who we are, what we do, and etc. To 400 households. From 400 households, we received in total, I think it was 15 euros donation monthly. So, and it cost us 600 euro to do it with all of the costs. And we got one donation, which was 15 euro per month. And since it was actually, this is one of the interesting parts of donations, is that this is financially suitable because it will pay off in a way in 14 months. Of course, this is not the ideal situation, but that's the way we look into. You have to pay to ensure that people actually donate. Brochures, that was one of the options we did. The second one that we are planning to do right now is social media campaign, which we believe is going to be the highest well received, because we can target people who typically donate. So since we are still experimenting with this one, I can't give too much details on it because we are still gathering the data. And but what we typically try to do is simply experimenting. Brochure, social media campaign. We will actually have a door-to-door campaign as well. So we will have a partnership with one other company that will go door-to-door to perhaps to ask for donations and explain. And here is a big part of the donations is that this is just a topic that I enjoy a lot, so I can go really in depth about it. Door-to-door campaign, we realized we are not experts, so we are hiring experts and paying a fee with percentage that they gather. And I know in a lot of countries people feel like door-to-door campaigns don't work, but I know even in Latvia and that there are 2 NGOs that are hiring. I think one NGO I know that for sure is hiring. They have 10 people doing door-to-door knocking every single year, I think for already 10 years, and it's financially rentable for them. And the second one is ensuring people donate. So a small detail that we did is on the website is we on the mobile. When you go to our website on mobile, the top button is now donate, and it's simply adjusting adjusting the platform for donations. That means ensuring that the donation button is high up. It's noticeable. Everybody will notice it. Then the second one is the donation process requires only a few steps, and so that's something we try to improve. And regarding the donations monthly, that's still something we try to develop into, but we have noticed one of the best things that works is initial thank you email and happy birthday emails, and lastly newsletters just for them every 3 to 6 months. Yeah, but I would say this for most people initially they just have to focus on this one and then this one, and when they actually have people donating, they can start to focus on this one, just go step by step. Hopefully I answered that question. I tried to give as much practical examples as we have in our NGO, and the other question was, could you share which platforms or networks aside from Salto and or partnership meetings or live projects you recommend for connecting and partnering with project proposal writers? Regarding the coordinators, we believe a fact: if you do it once, you will most likely do it again. So you need to find people who have done it at least once. To do so, there is this website, which is erasmus+eceuropa.eu. Then you have the search project results, and you can search by topics. Select all. For us, all it is youth topics that we are highly interested in, and KA2 projects. And let's say we are interested in those who have done it in fiscal year 24 and was it fiscal year 23. If you have done it recently, I believe you will do it again. And then you can you have 538 projects that are KA2 projects, youth projects, yeah. So what you do then is there's this download results. Hopefully my screen will share it. Just a second. So now you have a database of a lot of different projects and so you can simply go through the project titles and see, for example, youth as an agent for peace and security. And then here you click on the link and you can see the project information, who wrote it. This is the coordinator website. You can National Youth Council, check their website. And I would say, if you're looking already for experienced projects, this is one of the best ways to do it. And in case you don't really care if they coordinated the projects or not, they already have the partner sections under them, so you can also search for partners, and by that you will find a lot of high quality potential partners. That's one of the ways to find it. Then the second one is a lot of high quality NGOs actually advertise on LinkedIn. So there are different LinkedIn groups. For example, there's a LinkedIn group, I think, on cooperation projects, which is something that a lot of NGOs focus on. So it's a private group, and most often the people actually messaging here are the people who are looking for KA2 partners. And there's also a lot of Facebook groups. We created this list in I think less than a few days. But for example, there's Erasmus KA2 small scale partnerships, and that's something you can look into. For example, looking for a partner, there's always somebody looking here for a partner, and that this is one key resource. And in a lot of Facebook groups, there are community chats. Where, for example, Erasmus plus KA2 220, and you can find more people here. And another overall quite highly rated network internationally is Erasmus Plus Youth Academy, which is a lot of, I would say, high quality NGOs participate here, because it's not a lot of NGOs know about it, and those who do are quite high quality. So that's the base idea, and on how to find them, and the way to ensure if they are high quality is either you can look at their partners and at the project results and see if they have done it several times already. If they have done it several times, it's more, they know how to at least report, how to do reports and how to write the projects. If you want to check if the process of it over time, then I would maybe get in touch with their partners to see how it went, get in a call with them, and most of the times ask for beforehand if you can get a call and if you can try something small scale in a partnership, not like the project's funding, because those are for 2 years, but something else. For example, doing an online seminar together between your NGOs. That it's a best practice seminar. They are probably good at something, you're probably good at something, and then you can try to get like 40 people, each NGO gets 20 people, and you already see how they plan, how they talk, how they communicate, and that's going to be a pretty good quality check for potential partnerships. That's how I would do it if I have the time. And so that's regarding the donations, that's regarding the partners, and regarding the risk plan that was asked in the chat a little bit of a while ago. Risk plans, there are different ways to do them, and there are different methodologies to do them as well. But typically what we try to do is we try to divide the project into different categories and see in each category. I will show you an example. I'll practically show it how we do it. So we have the capacity, which is typically employee, knowledge, activities. Each activity has activity number 1, and for under each activity you have always the funding, you have the target audience that you have to reach, the quantity, partners, and you just repeat that for each of the activities, and what you get then is you get a lot of different scenarios, and you just try to imagine what could go wrong. That's I would say that's the most practical, easy way to do it. So under capacity, it's employees, knowledge, and there are also, of course, outside elements that sometimes you can't impact. For example, a war starting. Yeah, so I would say these are the main ways of doing it, and previous big problems that occurred. So yeah, and basically for each one, you always write what could be the problem that occurs, the likeliness of it actually happening, and how well prepared you are to solve it. And for some of the problems, it's good to write out the concepts also as activities. For example, in a KA2 project regarding capacity, one of the risks in every single risk management plan that there is, perhaps you can't meet enough, get enough people for an activity. So one of the practical solutions for that is maybe have a monthly meeting with all of the partners where you talk about what's the status going on and share the best practices, or something like that. So sometimes the risk management also can become practical activities that you can involve into projects, which are always a big plus because you have to do them anyways. Yes, that's it. Responding to the questions so far. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to ask. However, I suppose that will be it from me today. Looks like I went about in the time that was planned. A few things I want to mention regarding these 3 days. Some of you might have noticed, and I have mentioned this already several times, but that this is an experiment to see if this type of concept is needed and how it works. For each of the 3 days, we did try a slightly different concept. So the first day was a lot of really practical examples. Yesterday was more of sharing personal experiences, and today was more of focusing on Q&A. After today, we will send a survey that we would like you to complete. It's going to take 2 minutes for all 3 masterclasses. Was it good? Was it bad? Just to see which type of concept is the most well received for this. And yeah, and we will see if this is something, and if we understand which is the best concept, we will do of that more concept in the future overall. If we see that there is some additional value that we can bring internationally. But yeah, that's it. Thank you all, everybody, for these 3 intense days. Hopefully everything's going great. Best of luck in the upcoming projects, digitalization, marketing. Feel free to always reach out to us. We can always help out. If it's a little bit more intensive moment, we might respond in 2 to 3 days. But a follow-up email, as mentioned yesterday, is always a good practice. So thank you all. Best of luck. And hopefully everything turns out as it always does. Thank you.